What a cool opportunity today's interview is, man. It's awesome. I sometimes have to pinch myself when I realize what I am able to do with this podcast, and obviously I do this for the listeners out there that want to hear the stories of these people that I bring on the show, but I do it for myself too, selfishly. I want to learn more about these people. So I use the platform in order to do so. So while I get to share it with the rest of you, I also get to, take it in myself. And so I get to talk to Shea McClellin, who is a former Boise State football player, former NFL football player, played for the Bears as well as the Patriots, has a Super Bowl ring to show for it. And he has a lot of stories, the ups and downs of the NFL, right? Some of the good times and the bad, the differences between certain organizations. It's not like every organization is created equal, but he also shares some insights from his era at Boise State and some of the big games they played in, the lessons they learned. He gives some insights about the intricacies of certain positions on the football field, which I think is extremely interesting, and I think everybody should pay attention to that as well. And it's interesting because he's from a smaller school, smaller town out of Idaho, and from someone who was from the small town who was able to compete at very high levels, Division I level in football for college, and then also in the NFL. That's a very, very cool story. So I want you guys to all to tap into this one today, take notes, and enjoy this interview on the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru Podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru Podcast. Shane Larson here, host of the show. Excited to be here with you guys. Another interview. As I say every week, it's been 8.5 years at this point of this recording of doing this show since 2017, and every week I get to talk to new guests and hear their stories, and I'm super grateful for that. But I just want to shout out all the listeners who have tuned in over the course of the last 8.5 years, and those who are new to the show, welcome aboard. It takes a village to get this show out to where it's at. It's been downloaded in 183 countries, all 50 states, and it's thanks in large part to all of you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in once again. Now, joining me, this is a guy I've been trying to get on the show for a while. You guys heard in the introduction. It's kind of nostalgic for me too, because just watching his playing career, kind of growing up during the same time that he was balling in high school as well as in college and everything. It's been really cool for me to watch. His name's Shea McClellin, and excited to have him on the show. Shea, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah, brother. So, small town Idaho, with when it came to like high school ball and stuff. And so I want to kind of flash back a little bit, Shea, and kind of talk about your high school time frame. See, I graduated high school in 2006, and I do remember your name coming up. I was actually at a 5A school at the time, which was Meridian. I graduated from Meridian High School at the time, and that was the year that our football team won state. So we were pretty heavily involved with with the whole, like everybody in the state playing ball, and your name was coming up a lot from the smaller schools. And it was like you were balling, you were hooping, you were playing baseball, you were doing a lot of things. You were, multi-sport athlete. But I kind of want to flash back to your high school days, Shea, and kind of talk about that. What was your experience like playing high school football, high school basketball, high school baseball, all the sports that you competed in at a small school? Did you enjoy that? Do you feel like it prepared you well for the college game, being from a small school?
Well, it's funny you say that. I do remember, all the big names at bigger schools too growing up. So that's funny you say that. I never knew anyone would recognize me growing up in Marcine. So that is funny. But no, I did enjoy it. I loved it. I grew up with my parents out there, and, they raised me to be humble and hardworking, and, that's what I did. It was a lot of fun. I loved that I got the opportunity to play, multiple sports. I was a 3-sport guy, did football, I did basketball and baseball. And so it was awesome. I just loved playing with my boys, I didn't necessarily, the crazy thing is I didn't necessarily love football, which I think is surprising to some people when I say that. Basketball was my first love. I was really trying to go and play college ball. College basketball, and I was only getting recruited by smaller schools. And so, I did like this junior combine, my going into my senior year, and then that's when Boise State and all these other schools started recognizing me for football, and then it kind of just took off from there. And as far as basketball goes, it was just a bunch of smaller schools around the area, so I was like, well, maybe I'll give football a shot. At the end of the day, I just love being a competitor, and it doesn't matter what sport it is. If we would have had tennis, I would have been out there playing tennis. Any sport, don't matter. I'm going to be a competitor. As far as getting me right to play college, no, I don't think so. For me out there, I was normally the biggest guy,
Right.
In any sport against any school. There was a few other guys at some schools that were bigger, but for the most part, I was the biggest guy out there. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun playing against, being the biggest guy. I was a running back. So, I was 6'3", 220 my senior year, and I was playing running back. So even nowadays, that's big. You know what I mean? So imagine a 6'3", 220-pound guy playing running back. You're trying to tackle him. I mean, that's a lot. I would be scared for that. There was a lot of players from other schools when we would shake hands after the game in football. They'd be like, "Oh man, you're on roids and all this," and I'm like, "No, I never was. I was just blessed. I was just blessed to be big. That's all." So I thought that was funny, but no, I don't think. I definitely wasn't ready to play college ball, especially because when I got to Boise State, I played, totally different positions than I played in high school. So I definitely wasn't ready, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed my time out there for sure.
To put that into perspective, 6'3", 220, that's like Derrick Henry style. So just so anybody's listening who doesn't fully understand how big that is, especially in high school, like crying out loud, but Derrick Henry's a 6'3" running back, and everyone's like, dude, he's a tank. Yeah, well, that's what you were doing in high school. So that's literally like what it's like.
Definitely wasn't as fast or as strong as him, but
but you're
sure.
That's hard to tackle.
Yeah,
that's crazy, dude. Yeah. I do remember your name coming up all the time. I like to see the kids around all the entire state, just kind of who was the good athletes. And your name always came up. And then obviously when you went over to Boise State, that was a talk too, because there's the guy from Marston, the guy from the small school that's going over there. So when you got to Boise State, it was a really good era of football, right? You were going there during some really good seasons of football. I want to ask though, what was the biggest transition? Because you did mention you played a different position. You were coming in there. You're probably no longer the biggest guy, but I want to ask, was it from the physical side? Was it a big transition? From the academic side, was it a big transition? What was the biggest transition from high school to college for you, Shea?
I think it would be physically and just the speed of the game when I got there, because playing a new position, for me I went from middle backer, and then they wanted me to play DN for my first 2 to 3 years. And, it's a totally different, you're on the line, you're in a 3-point, you got to get your eyes right. Like, it's all about eyes at the defensive line. So if your eyes aren't right, if you're not seeing the right thing, it's just an explosion. You know what I mean? So just getting my eyes right and getting used to the speed of the game at a different position, and, getting my eyes to where, when I was in the NFL, Rod Marinelli, he was my NFL coach my first year, and he said, see a little, see a lot. If you see a lot, see a little. So pretty much it's like, if you're seeing everything, you're not going to be able to make the play. You're not going to be able to hone in on what your responsibility is. But if you see a little, if you're doing your job and, the tackle goes down and my eyes are off his butt, I'm looking for a puller or something coming back, then, you're going to see a lot and make some good plays. Just, little things like that. So I think just the biggest thing was just getting my eyes right and, getting ready for contact right away, because when you're a D lineman, it's boom, they're right in your face right away. Where you're backer, you can see more of the field, and you're not contacting guys necessarily right away. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, for sure.
Wow. Okay. So getting your eyes right. So I don't think out of the 8.5 years doing this show, I've talked to a ton of different players, like people who play in the NFL, guys play in college. I don't think anyone's ever said getting your eyes right. In fact, I know they haven't. I've never had that conversation. So I know you mentioned, trying to see a little, see a lot type of deal. It's almost the same concept of aim small, miss small type of thing. But when you're on the D end, when you're saying what's your first thing you're doing with your eyes as you set up in your stance on the defensive end side of things, and what is the first thing you're looking for, and then what's the next thing you go to? Is it a sequence of things you're looking for?
Well, first you're getting set, you're looking at the ball so you can get in your stance, right? 3-point. So you're behind the ball. And then the next thing I do would be, look at the formation. If I can get any keys on that through film study, maybe there's a tendency they're doing from formation or where the back is offset. Then I'm looking where the tight end is. If I'm away from the tight end and he's off the ball, he might be coming back to get me. So we would make a call like it would be like this. I don't remember what the call was, but we do this just to alert Y might be coming back. So that's a good indication. If Y's off the hip of like the tackle, if there's a fullback, they might be coming, to block me. So if the tackle goes down, I know for sure 90% of the time, either there's a Y, if he's in that hip, he's coming back, or there's a fullback coming to block me at some point. If not, if he blocks down and everyone's away, then boom, I can either chase that down or they might be running a naked. But most of the time, it's going to be like outside run away from you. So that would be the first thing, would just be formation, see where the Y is, if I'm to him, if I'm away. If I'm to him, I'm probably most likely head up. And so we always keyed the tackle. So that would be our key. So, if there's a tight end to me, I'd be head up on the tight end. I'd be keying the tackle. That's where I'd get all my reads. So if he blocks out, I would, boom, I'm striking through the tight end. If he blocks down and then the tight end comes, I'm still striking through. But for the most part, we're maintaining the C gap. If you guys know what that means, there's, the A gap next to the center and then the B gap outside the tackle outside the guard, and then the C gap between the offensive tackles and the tight end, and then the D gap after that. So for the most part, we're maintaining that C gap. And, in our defense, we had to force everything. We didn't spill. We forced everything inside. So, we'd keep our outside shoulder free all the time. Besides that, you're listening to O-line calls, quarterback calls to see if you can, get any hints on, what they might be running. Like, if they call, like Black Raven, for instance, if they call Black Raven and they run like an inside zone, well, maybe later on in the game, they call Black Raven again. Oh, then it's inside zone. You know what I mean? So you're just trying to pick up on little things like that.
Man, see, that's cool, Shea, because there's a lot of people who think that they'll say, you probably heard it your whole life growing up, like, oh, these football players or athletes, they're just dumb jocks. Like they don't, they don't understand the intricacies that go on behind the scenes in a football game or a basketball game or baseball, whatever it might be that you're playing. But like those things right there, each position has their own things. And then you have to be communicating as a team too. Like everyone has to be kind of like working together on like a string. Yeah. And if somebody's off, I mean, it could be detrimental, sometimes it's not, but it could be. That's cool to hear though. And that's
well, yeah, I know we were, and we had a lot of good players, so it made it easy, playing with, the whole D line. My senior year, we were all either draft picks or we got, we played multiple years in the league, the whole D line, and then we had a great secondary and great linebacker. So it was just easy, it was just easy when we were there, and we won a lot of games. But, and then I moved to like middle backer and outside backer a little bit my like the end of my junior year to my senior year. And, that's completely different. I mean, as a middle backer, there's a lot on your shoulders. Like you got to get the call. You got to relay it to the defense. And if you're not huddling, you got to make sure everyone gets the call, right? So you, as a middle backer, you have way less time to think than the defensive end. Defensive end, you get the call, boom. All right, now I can key in on other stuff. Whereas middle backer, you might get the call late, and then you got to relay it. You got to make sure the DBs are on the same page as you. You got to make sure you know what the safety's doing behind you, because if you don't, and you guys come and drop in the same coverage, the whole thing's screwed up, So middle backer is like completely different, and you got to be, obviously the quarterback of the defense. That's what everyone says, right? So you got to be in tune to everything. So it was a crazy shift, but it was a lot of fun because we won a lot of games for sure.
You played in some big time games. You mentioned your whole defensive line, the whole Boise State defense during that era. Like there were some professional football players there, right? There's a lot of good ones. Out of all the guys you played with, whether it be offense or defense, whoever on that in that program with you during those seasons you were at Boise State, who was probably the most influential teammate or your favorite teammate to be around, and why?
The most influential, I would say, would be Ryan Winterswijk. He actually, when I was young, like when I was like learning to be a defensive end, I would watch film on him and Mike T just to learn their moves, because I really like Winterswijk had a really nice two-hand swipe, and I was like, oh dude, I need to learn how to do that, because he was just killing people with it in practice and in games. And I would talk to him a little bit, and I'd watch film clips on him to see how he do it, and he helped me out a lot. And we would be roommates on the road and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. We were really close, and obviously Mike T too. Being a defensive lineman, you're just around the defensive lineman all the time. So I learned a lot from them, and they helped me out a lot. Besides D linemen, I hung out with Aaron Tevis a lot. And I just liked his game. He was like one of the best athletes I've ever seen. Like, pick up any sport and he's just good at it. You know what I mean? And so we hung out a lot. He's kind of a jack of all trades guy. He's just good at everything he does. And then Jamar Taylor, we were boys too. He was just a really good player, and we kind of just meshed as buddies. So I would say all those guys I was probably the closest with, most influential for me.
That's nostalgic for me too. Just hearing the names, that's crazy. At Boise State, y'all played in a lot of big games. The guys that I've talked to that were kind of in that same era, I always ask them this question. I want to ask you the same thing: is what was your favorite one? Like, what was the biggest game? I mean, there was tons during that 4-year span. Yeah. I mean, you guys had some big games, big time moments, some good, some bad, right? But like, I want to know, what was like one of your favorite games that you played in?
Well, I mean, probably most people were going to say the Fiesta Bowl, right? But, that was great. For me, it would have to be either Virginia Tech or Georgia. Tough. I mean, that's a tough one to pick between those two. They were both, supposed to be neutral site games, right? Virginia Tech was in at the Redskins, the Commanders Stadium in DC. Or is it DC or Maryland, somewhere over there?
It's technically Maryland, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were like 40 miles away or something like 40 minutes. And then at the Georgia Dome, they're like 2 or 3 hours from Athens. So it wasn't neutral site. It was pretty much road games. You know what I mean? And so we went in there and just beat both of those teams, and we took it to them pretty well. So anytime you get to take it to a SEC school, you know what I mean, or an ACC school, that's always a great feeling, because when I got to the league, all those dudes would talk smack. I'm like, hey man, I never lost to a SEC school, so you can't tell me nothing. You know what I mean? So It was funny. Yeah.
That's dope, dude. So I was at those games, right, just as a fan and a student, and I'm like, the Virginia Tech game still to this day is one of my favorite as a fan. Coming in there, like you said, there was like 70,000 Virginia Tech fans, maybe 10,000 Boise State fans made it over there. And when they started playing Enter Sandman, that was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life as a fan. I started jumping up and down screaming because it was like the adrenaline rush. But I want to know, what was it like coming out onto that field once it was time to actually come out, right? You guys had warmed up, there was some energy building up. Then they do their Enter Sandman. It's famous. You see that, you feel the energy. I'm sure you could feel it somewhere or hear it or something. I don't know, maybe not. But what was that like coming out on the field at that time?
I mean, it's hard to really explain what it feels like. There's just so much energy throughout the whole stadium, and it's a whatever Saturday night game. I don't know when it was, Friday night or something like that, where everyone's going to be watching, right? Because we were like the only game on at that point, because it was a late night game. And so just coming out of the tunnel, there's just a lot of energy, and you just get super hyped. I mean, that's kind of really the only way they explain it. You get super hyped. But other than that, for me, I was always just trying to get locked in and get ready to go, because, come 5 minutes later, we're doing the pledge or the national anthem, and then we're out there ready to go. So really, you get hyped from all the energy, but at the same time, you're trying to lock in and get ready to go, because, you have a job to perform for sure.
Oh, for sure, dude. No, that's cool though. I mean, I don't know. That was one of the sickest experiences.
I mean, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, for me, when I played in the NFL, so I played in a bunch, sold out arenas and all that. And I never really noticed the crowd. It's weird to say that, but I was just so zoned in on what I had to do. It was hard for me to really take in the crowd until I was sitting on the bench. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're in the game, you're just so zoned in and you're so locked. It's like you have tunnel vision for sure. You're not, the crowd doesn't, it's nothing. Maybe you make a play and you get hyped, but it's you're out there with your boys, you're doing it for each other. You know what I mean? And I don't know, it was just a feeling of just being locked in, completely locked in and zoned in on, your responsibility and your job.
That's sick, actually. I mean, it sounds like everything's going crazy, but if you're able to block that out and just go, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Block out the noise. You got to play the game within the game. And if you don't let the crowd get to you, or even for good or for bad, right, you're able to execute. One other question I had for you. One of the toughest games I would say as a fan, I'm sure as a player, was the Nevada game, right? Kyle Brosman's a good friend of mine. I went to school with him for my whole life. He's like really good friend of mine. Tough game to lose, right? And there was a brutal game because it kind of disrupted a lot of the flow there. I just want to know what it's like from a player's perspective, from your perspective, how you guys were able to like handle that. I mean, it's a tough game on the road. Kaepernick's doing whatever he wants. Seemed like it was just like you guys would hit him, they'd counter, they'd hit him and counter. It's just like back and forth, and then a couple things didn't go our way.
Right.
What was it like experiencing a loss like that, where there was a lot on the line, and being able to come back and like rally with the guys the next week, and then try to get to the bowl game and do the thing still, because you still had games to play. You had a game left to play in the regular season, and you still had a job to do, right?
Right. That game was a heavyweight boxing match for sure. Blow after blow after blow, and just trying to hit back and make a stop. I think initially it was tough for everyone. Initially it's like, man, we should have won that. But I've learned this throughout my years, like throughout my time in the league, and looking back at everything, and even now coaching, it's like there's not one play that's going to cost you the game. Like there's more than one play. Like defensively, we could have done something, throughout the game to make a stop here or make a stop there, or offensively or special teams wise, we could have done something where it didn't have to come down to that. You know what I mean? So, that's just one thing I've learned, throughout my career, is just like, it's not just, you can't just blame it on one person. There's always other points in the game. There's usually, 4 or 5 big points in the game where, it's something could have went different and it just didn't go our way. And that's just the way it is. And, I think initially a lot of us were mad, but we understood, because we were so close, together, that we understood, look, we have to move on. We have to get over this, and we got to just finish the season right. And luckily we did, and we came together. And, I don't think any of us, maybe initially we, blamed Kyle, but no, it's not his fault, man. And I think, as players and the fans, we just got to get over it. It's like it comes down to more than just that play. You know what I mean? Yeah. Think about how many times that he made field goals, right, in his career. Like, I think he was the number 1 scorer before this guy recently, right? Recently, forgot his name. So, we can't be mad at him. He did so many good things for us, and he scored a lot of points for us. So at the end of the day, like I said, I think we were able to move on, and I think for the most part, most of the fans are able to move on. And like I said, it's never one thing in the game. There's always more things we could have done. You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
I think that's a life lesson for any athlete that's listening. I would encourage everybody who's listening to this right now, just kind of remember that, because it's easy to blame, especially when your team goes down. It's easy to blame, but if you have a tight knit squad and you guys actually work together as a brotherhood, or a sisterhood, if you're in female athletics or whatever, it's something like that. I guess that's a really good lesson to learn, because that was a tough game to lose, and it sucked, dude. As a fan, dude, I can't even tell you how many fights we almost got into with the fans. I hate Nevada fans, all missing teeth, hillbillies. Sorry, I'm a big
Me and Billy were getting flipped off as fans were running on the field, like we were just standing.
Oh yeah, I do. Was it you there too? I remember the footage of it, of Billy at least. I didn't remember you being on it. Maybe I was right next there, and the fans were running on the field just flipping us off. I was like, oh man, this sucks. Oh dude, yeah,
that game was so cold. That was one of the coldest games I've ever played in too. So I mean, that could have been a factor, but you don't want to blame it on that either. You know what I mean? But it was literally so cold.
It was freezing out there, dude. We're the ones who got on ESPN when the field goal got missed in the end of regulation, and we were the ones that put the footage right up on us.
Right.
And I remember I got sick that night, Shea, because I went back to the hotel. I was so sick. My nerves were shot. I was freezing. I was like, and I got so physically sick. I got like the flu from it.
Right.
I hate that place so much.
Yeah. For sure.
That's funny. So when you went to the NFL, let's touch base on this. We talked about your transition from high school to the collegiate realm. Obviously, you were able to build yourself through and develop a really good collegiate career. Like, you were really, really well done. You came back from injuries. You kind of played through stuff. You were doing your thing. Had a really good collegiate career. Going to the NFL, there's a whole story there too, like the draft and just discussions like that, like all the crap from the media. But you go in the first round, you're going to the Bears. I want to talk about your draft experience and just kind of what the transition was to the NFL game, because that's a whole nother level now. Now you're getting paid to play. Now you're playing with guys that are older, have been in the league. Now you're dealing with contract situations and just different players that have been around for a long time. So what was the transition like for that?
I would say that transition was a lot harder from college to NFL than high school to college. Just because it is a job, right? And everyone's kind of out for themselves, I guess. The way you could put it, everyone's trying to protect themselves, not just the players, but the coaches too. You know what I mean? Like they have jobs on the line. As far as draft day experience, like for me, it's crazy. Like my goal was to never play in the NFL, and I had a couple good years, my junior or into my sophomore year to junior and senior year, and I was able to just work hard and be a first round pick. God blessed me with that, and it was a great experience. I was invited to New York at the time. That's where it was being held, and it was awesome being in the green room and just being with all these other athletes. And my grandparents got to go, and my girlfriend at the time, but she's my wife now, got to go, and I was there with my agent. And so just to be able to experience New York City and be there with a bunch of other good athletes, and I never went in expecting my name to be called. I just, wanted to enjoy the experience. That's why I kind of accepted the invite to go there. I wasn't expecting to get picked in the first or second, or even third round. I just wanted to go. I was like, how many times are you going to get, an opportunity like this? So it's something I had to take advantage of. Going into the draft, I was projected to be more of like a 3-4 backer and like outside kind of pass rush guy. And so I thought I was going to go to a team like that. That's what I was preparing for. Chicago wasn't even on the radar. Like I wasn't even, me, my agent were like, that's not happening. It was going to be like Green Bay or New England or San Diego, those 3-4 teams back in that day, which they might be a little bit different now, but that's kind of what I was projected as. And then Chicago picked me, which was crazy because San Diego picked right before. And so after they picked, I went downstairs. I had to go to the restroom, and I think my wife did too. But the Bears were on the clock, and I was just down. Like when you go downstairs, I don't know. It was in the Rockefeller Center.
I can't remember.
Radio City Music Hall, maybe. I think it was
Might
Radio
have
City. And so when you go downstairs, it's like underneath the green room, there's like this area where like the janitor, and he was like down there, like watching the draft and all that. So I went down and went to the restroom. It was so weird that the restrooms are down there. It's like this weird basement shack, And so we went down there, and I was just chilling down there with the janitor. And then I had my phone, and my agent's like, "Yo, you got to get back up here. The Bears about to pick you." I was like, "What?" I didn't expect it at all. So I was chilling down there with the janitor, Radio City Music Hall or whatever it was. And then I sprint back upstairs, and my wife was doing something else too. So we had to call her and get her back up there. And then, the Bears called and got picked, which, like I said, I didn't expect to be picked at all. And so I go there. They want me to play D end, which, if I'm looking at it now, like I'm way undersized for an NFL D end. Like, guy opposite me, Julius Peppers, is 6'8", has a crazy wingspan. He's a 6'8", 290, and he has 8% body fat. And I'm 6'3", 255 at the time, with not even close to the wingspan he has. Like playing D in the league, like you need length. Like I don't have arms like I have long arms, but dudes, DNs now have like ridiculously long arms. Like you need that length too, because the offensive tackles have so much length that, when you get into them, it's hard to get off those guys because they're so big. You know what I mean? Like their arms are so long. And for me, like playing DN, like it was too difficult. Like I just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So I would try to use like my speed and quickness, but all this scouting reports and everything was like, well, all this guy has is speed and quickness. So, if you just kind of overpower him, it is what it is, So I think once, those scouting reports got out, and I don't know if that is, I'm just kind of guessing because I wasn't a power guy. I was a speed guy. I used my speed. And so if you're going against a guy that only uses speed, then you can kind of narrow it down. Like if I can contain his speed, then it's over. If I can get into this guy, he doesn't have the length, so it is what it is. Then I got transitioned to backer, and we were playing 4-3, and then I played Sam. And my last year there, like I had three head coaches in 4 years. So that was tough too. We had Lovie Smith, who was awesome, loved him, and we went 10-6. I don't know why they fired him after that. And then we had Tressman, super smart guy, really, knew a lot of X's and O's, was super smart. Just gonna, I guess, contain the locker room. And then John Fox, really good players coach guy, and was good. And then my last year there, we had Vic Fangio, which was awesome. He's one of my favorite coaches. And then we transitioned to a 3-4. So we're 4-3, 4-3, 4-3. I was DN my first 2 years, Sam Backer in a 4-3 my third year. And then I went to Mike Backer, in a 3-4 my fourth year. So, learning another defense all over again. But it's never an excuse. You know what I mean? I tried the best that I could at the hand I was dealt. I always gave 100%, and it just didn't work out there. Luckily, New England picked me up in free agency, went there, and had a successful time. And I love my time there. And everything at the end of the day, like in the NFL, if you win, that solves everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in Chicago, we just weren't winning. You know what I mean? So it tough, I think, for everybody. But, in Chicago, I feel like the guys were more out for themselves and just kind of protecting themselves, where in New England, it was like, look, that we were more of like a team, and like everyone was there to win. You know what I mean? And where in Chicago, I didn't feel like it was like that. It was more of like, we're just trying to protect ourselves. So it's hard to play in an environment like that.
Sure.
And then when you get into an environment where you have really good team leaders in New England, with Brady, Gronk, Edelman, and Devin McCourty, and Matthew Slater, and Rob Ninkovich, and guys like that, have done it for a long time, and they've won a lot of games. It just makes life a lot easier. Was Bill hard to play for? Yeah, Bill was really hard to play for. It was more militaristic type, I would say. More of that college type feel, and a lot of guys, in the league, they don't like that, and so that's why they'll, if you're in New England, they don't care if you're a first round pick or a free agent, like you'll get cut the next day. Like if you're not buying into the Patriot way, well, back then, and then you were gone. It didn't matter who you were, which, I like that. I thought that was the right way to go. And then New England, it's like, they're putting the players they have, when Bill was there, at least they're putting the players they had, and they're putting them in, and they're doing what they're best at. You know what I mean? Like, if the guy as a backer, if you can't play man-to-man covers, they're not going to put you in that situation. They'll put someone else that can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why so many guys, when Belichick was the coach, is where it was more of like a team, like, it's just not the same guy in there all the time. We would mix it up game plan wise. Like there would be a different D line sometimes, depending on the game plan, different backers. Like for me, my first year there, I was playing a little bit of outside backer, and I played a little bit of inside backer. But the wild card game, I played 8 snaps, and then the next, yeah, and I didn't even start. And then the next week, AFC Championship, I played like 55 snaps and I started. So it's like, that's just the way the New England way was. It was like, your time will come. You just got to step up when it's your time. And like, it's so, game plan specific that you never know. Like one week you might play, like I said, 8 snaps, and the next week you might play 60, so you just never know, and you got to be ready at all times. And, so yeah, I know I kind of rambled on there for a long time, but that was the experience.
That's awesome. Actually, it's interesting hearing from you, Shea, and others that I've talked to. People, I think the general fan base probably just assumes that each organization, because it's in the NFL and they all make millions, are created equal. And it doesn't sound like that's the case. Like every one of them's different. They're ran differently. Same thing in the NBA. When you get to professional athletics, there's different markets, different budgets, different leadership. And that's just the reality. It's like corporate America. You go to certain places, they seem like they're flourishing, but it's not the same. Depends on the leadership inside. And I wanted to ask you that too. I mean, did you ever feel like, when Manti Te'o said this once, he said, when he got to the NFL, because of all the stuff going on the mental side of things that were happening on the external stuff that he was dealing with, it felt like in the NFL, he was always hesitating. Like he never could really play to his full potential. He didn't have the confidence anymore. So he was hesitating. And so he never really got to shine. Did you ever experience that? Did anybody you know experience that, where they get to the NFL and it's like they can't even be themselves fully because they're hesitating a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, 100%, I would agree with that, with what he said. Like when I was in college and playing like a D end and back or whatever, I was just so free, and I hadn't, was carefree. I just wanted to go out, have fun with my boys, and just play. And then once I got to the league, like I was literally scared to make mistakes. You know what I mean? Like not everyone's like that, but for me and, Manti, like he said it, like, you know, like I said, I was scared to go out there and like get a flag or roughing the passer or, not do my job, like make a mental error pretty much. Like,
Right.
so it was just hard. Like I was playing so tense all the time that it was just hard to, be myself. So I think 100% I would agree with that. And I don't think everyone has that, like if I could have played the way I played in college, like just be free and not care about, making mistakes. I feel like I could have been a lot better than I was. But yeah, man, I just felt like if I make a mistake, I'm about to get cut or I'm about to be benched or you know what I mean? Or I'm going to get MF'd on the sideline. Like
Yeah.
I never wanted to get yelled at. I never, wanted to make a mistake. So I think that really affected my playing style for sure when I got to the league. And like there's so many eyes on you, like it's the NFL, like there's so many people. So that obviously I would say affected me for sure going there.
That's crazy to me, right? Like, and not many people will ever actually fully understand that because no one's gonna. Very few people get to be on the big stage like you. You had the opportunity, but like, there's a lot of pressure on there. I'm sure. I can just imagine, dude, trying to perform like that all the time, and just like your job's on the line. Like that's your livelihood at the time, So going over to New England, I did want to ask you, Shea, playing with the big names that you did mention, but like obviously Tom Brady's there. You guys got a Super Bowl. You played a pretty good role over there. Like it was awesome. Like you had a big piece to do with a lot of that when they were successful. So what was it like playing in a Super Bowl? You played in big games all around. You played in big stadiums, played in big games through college, through high school, through whatever. What was it like for that being part of one of those big games, specifically the one that you guys, you won? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was wild. Like the Super Bowl is so crazy because there's just so much media. Like there's so many cameras on you. Like it's just you're used to cameras like when you get to the NFL and like playing in college a little bit. But like literally the sidelines, there's like a camera or a video camera like every square inch of those sidelines is a camera, and it's like you can kind of feel like it's not really like a game because like a lot of those people are there because it's the Super Bowl, right? It's an event, you know what I mean? So they're not even fans of the team, so it just kind of feels like uh a bunch of fans, a bunch of media and cameras are just kind of there just watching you, you know what I mean? And you feel like like the entire world's watching, right? Because it's the Super Bowl. And so you kind of feel that pressure and like, hey man, like everyone's watching, don't mess this up type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, I was just like, like I said before, I was just trying to lock in and zone in like on my job. And that's all I could do. That was another, one of those games where I was talking about where which was crazy because so I started that game, and the way Atlanta at the time ran their offense and what a lot of teams did to us would run like this crack toss kind of run play. And I'm out there and I'm like, it's the first play of the game. All right. For them, I think it was the very first play of the game. We're on defense, they're on offense. And I think it was Sanu. He was a receiver, like a bigger, I don't, I forgot his first name, but he played at Rutgers.
Is that Muhammad?
Yeah. Sanu. I think it was either him or Julio was out there at the time, but they were like in the slot. And I was like, it kind of feels like it's going to be a crack toss right now, but the receiver was just a little bit too wide. I was like, nah, he's not. He's too wide. He's not going to crack me. And so I was like, I almost played crack toss, but I didn't. Sure enough, it was crack toss right to me. Boom, dude cracked me. I got washed down, and they got like a big yard for like if you go back and watch that first play, you'll see I got washed down and they made like 20 yards. I was so pissed off. I was like, damn it, I knew what the play was and I didn't play into it. But yeah, I started that game and then like a couple plays, like I had a couple bad plays and they just took me out and only played like probably like 10 defensive snaps the whole game. I played like all the special teams, but I mean that's part of it. Like I was saying, like if you mess up, bam, they're gonna get somebody else in there and kind of do that. And that's what happened in the Super Bowl, which is crazy because I had a great week of practice that whole week, and that's kind of why I started. Because they were big on if you had a good week of practice, you're kind of, that's what'll happen in the game. Like Bill always used to say, like, practice execution is game reality. Like, what happens in practice happens in the game. And I tell my kids that all the time, my high school kids. And so, but yeah, it did not happen. So I was kind of upset. But I knew what the play was, but I'm pissed off to this day. I regret not playing that crack toss because I had a feeling I should just listen to my instincts there.
You know what's crazy though, Shay, is like I know we're all our own worst critic and stuff, but you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I only played 10 snaps. I'm like, dude, you played in the Super Bowl, bro. Like
Yeah,
you started
yeah.
in the Super Bowl, and like, yeah, you got cracked. Everyone gets got sometimes. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, but it's the
that's
Super Bowl.
crazy. I know, man.
It's all right. We won, so I ain't too mad.
You got a ring, dude.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. And you were part of a big game. Like you were in there. So like I think it's pretty freaking incredible that you can even say that you were part of that and you actually played in it. That's pretty freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
What was it like getting a ring? I just want to know that. Just like somebody that I know here locally has a ring. Like that's pretty sick. Was it pretty dope, or was that one of those things where you're like, whatever?
Well, like at the time, yeah, it was pretty dope, because not a lot of people had those. Like now it's just, locked up somewhere. People will come over and like ask me to bring it out and I'll show them because they want to see it. You know what I mean? And it is like ridiculously huge. It looks like a belt buckle and it's crazy. It's huge. And there's just diamonds everywhere. But for me, it's just like, whatever. I don't know. I don't put enough like, what's the word? I just don't put a lot of, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think. I think you guys know what I'm thinking of though. I don't know. It's whatever to me. You know what I mean? Like it's cool to show people that I got it and they want to see it and they think it's awesome. But for me, it's just like, nah, it's just a trophy, right? Like I can't take it with me when I die, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So I have 5 kids. So who's going to get it? I don't know. They're going to fight over it. So I might as well just sell it at this point and just split the money or something for them, so they're not fighting over it. But no, so like, it was cool, like getting the ring. And
sure,
the best thing I think about the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, was the parade. The parade was literally insane in Boston. Those fans are nuts. I mean, there was like 2 million people out on the streets, like packed like people, and they're just cheering and going crazy. And like, it was just a lot of fun. That parade was dope. And the ring ceremony was really cool, a lot of fun. And like, it was, our own private event in a tent in Robert Kraft's backyard. And he brought like Snoop Dogg and Gucci Mane were there. And it was just us, it was just the players and the coaches there. It wasn't some big, huge event. And then that's where we got our rings. And yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see and hold for a little bit, but now I'm kind of like over it. I'm like, whatever. It's just it's a trophy. You know what I mean? So.
No, that totally actually makes sense, and I respect you for that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
As you look at your career, and now you're coaching at the high school level, and you look at your playing career, you go through injuries. I know concussions were a big part of it, but like you succeeded. You made it to the highest level. You played in multiple years at the highest level. Got a Super Bowl. I mean, you've achieved more than most people ever will. But now you're coaching at the high school level, right? You're able to pass that down. You mentioned you got 5 kids. From my understanding, at least the ones I've seen that are similar ages to my oldest son, like, I mean, you got ballers, right? You got athletes, hard workers there. What is like the biggest lesson, like the life lesson you've taken through your career from the playing days and maybe from some coaches and mentors that you've had? You had Coach Pete, you had multiple coaches with the Bears, you had Bill, that you're trying to pass down to not only your high school kids that you're coaching, but that you're also passing down to your own children. Like, what's one of the biggest life lessons you'll take from that?
I think there's 3 things that I kind of always fall back to. It's being humble, working hard, and just giving max effort. I think if you can do those 3 things, I think you can get far in life. And I don't think it matters, what you want to do, whatever sport it is, or, whatever job you want to do. When you get older, I think if you focus on those 3 things, I think that it can take you far. Because like when I was in college and in the pros, it was like, especially college, I would say, like, everyone's talented, but there was a lot of guys that were more talented than me that I thought had more talent than me, but I just worked harder. At the end of the day, I just outworked them. And I sacrificed, what I had to sacrifice to get to where I was, whether that was, watching film when everyone else wasn't, or, doing, extra sets, or, I just wanted to outwork. Right. And then, being humble, just be a normal basic human being, and, just be quiet and just do your job. You know what I mean? My grandparents raised me to be humble. You don't have to showboat. You don't have to be doing this or that to be good. You know what I mean? So just be humble and just work hard and compete. And the biggest thing I would say is just effort. How much effort are you going to put in, to what you want to achieve, right? If you're going to put 80% effort, well, you're going to get 80% out of it. If you're going to put 100% effort, you're going to 100. You know what I mean? So it's just basic things that I think everyone that probably has heard before, right? I don't think I'm inventing anything here, but I think that's the three things that I would fall back to and got me to the position I was in. So that's kind of what I'm trying to teach my kids, teach my high schoolers is like, hey, we're going to give max effort at all times. If not, then I'll find someone else and put them in there. You know what I mean? And for my kids, like, at the end of the day, like when they're playing a sport or whatever they're doing, like even if it's not a sport, I just want them to give effort. And if I see effort, we can work with the other stuff. They're young. Like we don't got to be doing all this and all that and all these crazy new invented drills and all this, all this stuff on the internet. No, like if I see effort, when they're young and they're giving effort and they're really trying, well, you can work with that. Right. You can work with that and you can teach them the things they need to be taught by the time they get in high school. Because it doesn't really matter when they're, in fifth grade or seventh, eighth. Like when they get into high school, it's a little bit different, right? That's when it starts to matter. Like all this stuff where they're in third grade and doing all these travel teams and all that really does not matter, right? And so like it's just about effort. Like if we're playing, like maybe my kid's not the best baseball player or the best basketball player, but if I see him out there hustling his butt off and he's trying to get rebounds, he's playing defense and, he's trying to get the ball, that's great, man. And, I think kids like that are the kids that go farther in life. You know what I mean? And I think that if they're giving that effort and they're working hard and they're trying, I think it'll eventually come at the end of the day. Again, I think I just rambled on a totally different
dude.
thing, but
hey, this is all no, that answers my question, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
like I've had interviews and people who have followed this show for 8 years have seen them. There's been interviews where I'll ask a question and it's like a 2-word response.
Yeah.
And then there's where I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's interviews where you're sharing the insights, and I actually really appreciate that. And I think the listeners do too. So thank you.
I used to be that 2-word response guy, but the older I get, the more I don't know, it just comes with age, I guess. You just talk more. I don't know what it is.
You got more stories to share, man. You got to share them.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time, Shea. I do have one last question. I wanted to see that you mentioned earlier you're a competitor. You like to compete. You're obviously coaching, so you get some competition there. I know there was a time. It's funny because I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I came across an interview of yours that was regarding pickleball. I know you were competing in pickleball, but that was more so in California, if I'm not mistaken. But are you still competing in pickleball? What do you do to compete these days?
Oh man, right now just coach, honestly. Yeah, I used to play pickleball heavy in California. Like it was every day I was out there I was doing lessons and I was doing tournaments and climbing the ranks and all that. I was never at the pro level. I was trying to achieve that. I never would have got there because there's a lot of really good players in pickleball. But when I first started, it was in California and I was terrible. I went and played against like some 80-year-old women and they were just kicking my butt. And after that day, I was like, oh, this can't happen again. And so I hired like this professional pickleballer. And so he would teach me, a great dude. He taught me out in California and I would take lessons every day and just got better and better. And it's nice because in California, we were in SoCal. So we lived out there for a couple years before COVID hit. But literally you can play every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless it's rain, like there's a few days of rain, but other than that, like it's every day. It's like 70 to 80 degrees, so you're out there playing. It's just nice. And so I was out there playing pickleball and coaching. That's all I did. And we only had like 2 kids at the time, so I could, but now we have 5 kids and we're back in Idaho and there's cold winters. So you got to find, it's just harder to find like pickleball players out here, I would say, that are close. Like California, I could go anywhere, close, far, and there's players everywhere. Here, it's like the good players are like, in Eagle or Boise, and like, dude, I'm south of Lake Lowell. Like, I ain't trying to drive 45 minutes to go play an hour and a half of pickleball, you know? So I just got to find more players out in Nampa. So if you play
So
pickleball,
what you need to do, Shea, is you need to
if you play
invest in, like,
pickleball, and if you are at least a 4.0, hit me up and we'll play pickleball. All right. Hit me
let's
up
go. I'm going to cut this and put it on a social media
or
post.
Facebook or Twitter. Hit me up on anything. All right. We will play. I want to play. I want to get back into pickleball. I haven't played for a long time. I just need to find players in the Nampa area. All right. Thank you. That was
Wow, that's incredible, man.
Yeah.
You know, Meridian just down the road there, like probably another 35 minutes from where you're at, though, in South Lake Lowell. But if you're out by Meridian, they got the Flying Pickle now. So, like, why don't you build one of those?
I've been there. That's a great place.
Build one of those out there where you're at, man. Then you can bring everybody.
I know we need to. I ain't lying. I might build an indoor court at my place, man. I don't know, but then like I said, I gotta find players though. I can't just play by myself.
Well, we'll put the promotion out there that you just shot, and we'll make sure we find them for you.
I definitely get back into it, man. I miss it for sure. Like I said, I'm just a competitor, so it don't matter. Like I'll go out there and compete for sure.
Hell yeah, dude. I love it. Well, man, I appreciate you, Shea, taking the time to chat with us and share your insights and wisdom. And I'm looking forward to watching, your coaching career continue on. I'm going to be following the high school scene pretty religiously. I love, covering the athletes around here and just kind of seeing how people are doing. So it's going to be cool to watch. And yeah, just appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll connect in the near future, man.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Thanks for the invite.
Heck yeah, man. For all those listening, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.